Welcome to the Communication Mastery Podcast with me, Mark Burlinson. We're tackling miscommunication with the power of understanding. We're growing our mastery of the foundation of teamwork and of all relationships. And so I want to ask you to help me spread the word about stronger, more effective communication by inviting some friends to listen along with you. Then discuss what you've learned and give me your feedback. What would you like to hear from us in future episodes so we can make this podcast even more effective? Thanks for joining me. Let's jump in. This week, I want to focus on clarity in our Communication Mastery podcast. We've had some previous episodes on misunderstandings and on teaching to learn more deeply. And in both of those episodes and others, we've had to highlight the need for greater clarity in some of our communication. So I thought it would help us if I would put together a few points. I think I've got 6 points altogether here. Essential keys for clarity in our interpersonal business communication. Each of these is focused on helping your message land clearly and confidently with whoever it is that you're communicating with, whether it's somebody you're supervising or with a boss or a potential client or a customer you're trying to resolve a problem for, or a lead that you want to sell to. We want there to be clarity and we want it to land clearly for them, because that's going to be more beneficial for you. You're not going to waste your time with miscommunication. So let's talk about clarity keys in our communication. And probably the most important one, although I'd hesitate to pull out one as more important than all the others, but the first one would be to know your purpose. You need to know what it is that you want to communicate. You need to define ahead of time, why am I communicating? You need to think it through. Whether you speak with someone or whether you're writing to someone, why am I communicating with them? Am I informing? Am I asking? Am I persuading? Am I clarifying? Am I correcting? There needs to be a very clear purpose to the communication, whether it's written or whether it's spoken. It's particularly important with written communication because written communication lacks all of the other components of communication. There's no tone of voice, there's no visual cues, there's no body language, there's no ability to respond in real time to the reactions. And so written communication is especially important, that you know what your purpose is, because a clear purpose helps to keep your message focused and relevant to the cause or the goal. So here would be a tip for that. Start in your mind, start your communication with a sentence, complete the sentence that starts with, my goal here is to, whatever it may be, fill in the blank. My goal is this. And as I identify and clarify that goal, it's going to bring clarity to all of the communication. A second key for clarity would be to think from the perspective of the receiver of the communication, to think from their perspective. If you tailor your message to your listeners' needs, to their knowledge level, to their communication style, and to their role in whatever the setting may be, then you're going to be able to think from their perspective about how to phrase what you're saying, how to frame what you're saying in a way that enables them to receive it with clarity. So you want to avoid jargon. Unless it's shared language in a work setting. There's often shared language, isn't there, specific to the work that you're doing together. But apart from that, avoid jargon if you possibly can, because that creates a barrier between you and the receiver or the listener. And then secondly, anticipate, again, by thinking ahead before you communicate, anticipate any questions or concerns or even potential misunderstandings that they may have. So you want to think from their perspective, because when people feel understood, that's when clarity grows. Clarity grows when people feel understood. And so investing in thinking from their perspective is very valuable in increasing clarity in communication. The third key for clarity, especially in business, is to keep it simple and structured. There's always a temptation, particularly if you want to impress, to drift into more flowery or convoluted forms of communication, when actually using plain professional language and a logical flow, a simple logical flow, is always going to increase clarity. So different things that would contribute to that would be to break long thoughts into short sentences, not to run on sentences again and again with an extra thought, but to break it into simple points to make. And then to organize those points, to say or to write first this, secondly that, and then finally the other. You organize it into points, then those who are receiving the communication can follow the train of thought with you. Choose plain language whenever you can. Our language, the English language, started with Anglo-Saxon, which was a pretty simple, although the spelling was kind of weird, a pretty simple, straightforward language. But it's then had added to it components from Greek and Latin and other foreign languages that are more complex in their structures. I think it was Winston Churchill that said that, broadly speaking, the short words are the best, and the old words are best of all. And he, of course, was a great communicator. If ever you want to be inspired in communication, just pull up on YouTube or wherever some of his old speeches. They were amazing. And then the famous author George Orwell wrote this. He said, "Never use a foreign phrase, a scientific word, or a jargon word if you can think of an everyday English equivalent." It's a very counterintuitive principle, but it actually creates clarity to use simple, straightforward words in a simple, logical progression. The danger is that we think that that'll be too simplistic, when actually clarity is so much more valuable than complexity in terms of understanding and acceptance of what you want to communicate. So clarity is not about saying more, it's about saying what really matters and narrowing it down, keeping it simple, keeping it structured. Your business is a wheel with many, many spokes. From leadership and management to customer relations and marketing, communication is the hub of that wheel that causes everything else to work effectively. It makes the wheel turn when communication is working well. So oil the wheel of your business by focusing on communication IQ. Strengthen collaboration, provide exceptional customer support, boost sales performance, even facilitate effective learning. Contact me today and let's get your business moving forward faster without misunderstanding. The fourth area that increases clarity is, and this comes back to your hearers or your receivers of the communication, it's to check for understanding. When we check for understanding, I'm not assuming that I have been clear, even though I put the preparation in ahead of time. I'm going to invite feedback from the person I'm communicating with or from the group that I'm communicating with. So you can use check-in phrases as you're talking with things like, does that make sense so far? Or do you have any questions about what I've said already? And then you can ask open-ended questions that will kind of test comprehension. So it's tempting to say, do you understand? Well, that's a yes-no answer kind of question, isn't it? Instead, you could ask, so what stood out to you most strongly so far? Or what has surprised you so far from what we've talked about? Or has anything we've said not made sense? Those are open-ended questions that invite the listener to think about what they've received and then reflect back to you what they have received. And then you can use that input, that feedback, to check further for understanding and then adapt what you're saying if you need to. You can draw on your influencer language if you're speaking with a group. The influencer language, out of the 7 communication languages, is the language that is intuitive and is able to kind of read the room, to understand on a non-cognitive level, a more emotive level, is this group of people receiving and understanding what I'm saying? So you can draw on that language, especially if it's strong in your profile, or you can strengthen it if it needs that in order for you to do that. The 5th key for clarity is to watch your tone and your body language, that your tone and your body language don't contradict the message, because non-verbal cues can truly impact how clearly your message is being received. So you want to use consistent facial expressions. You want to have a posture that's open, a tone that is inviting and welcoming, rather than harsh or confrontative, because those things will cause people to be on guard, and that will mess with clarity in an instant. You want to be warm and calm and confident in the way you express yourself, because that invites people in to receive what you're saying, especially if you're giving feedback or if you're giving instruction. But in any form of communication, being warm and calm and confident really helps, provided you don't then contradict that with maybe closed body language or a tone of voice that implies that there's a disconnect between what you're saying and the way you're saying it. So watching your tone, watching your body language is an important step towards greater clarity. And then finally, after the communication, you want to confirm and then follow up that the communication has landed the way you intended it to. So you want to reinforce key points, maybe if it's with a group of people, with a handout, or reinforce it in writing afterwards, to circulate a document or a summary sheet. There are many artificial intelligence tools these days that can draft one of those for you after any kind of interaction. Remember, of course, to look over those and make sure that the AI hasn't made mistakes. I've had some laughable ones with some of my meetings and interactions, but you can catch those mistakes if you watch it. But circulate a decision summary or action steps at the end of a conversation, and then follow up with the people in the group or the person that you've been communicating with. Follow up later to clarify the next steps or to clarify responsibilities, so that you can make sure that what you said has truly landed. So I hope those 6 points have been helpful for you. I actually put another one of my infographics together. You can download this in the show notes. And so if you want to download that and keep it on your desk or for the next interaction you have, or use it in your preparation for the next time you're speaking publicly, I'd love to hear how it goes for you. Use the text me link in the show notes to give me your feedback, to tell me how that went. And I'd also be grateful if you'd leave a review. Has this been helpful to you? Please tell others about the podcast so that we can grow our communication mastery together. That's it for this week. I hope that was clear as we talked about clarity, and we'll see you back here next week for another episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. It would mean a lot to me if you'd rate and review the podcast so it helps more listeners to find us. But also, would you give me your feedback on things you'd like to hear about in future episodes? And remember to share the episode with a friend if you see something that would benefit them as well. You can reach me with feedback through my website at markburlinson.com. Just click on the contact button and send me a message. I respond to everyone personally, and I really want to hear from you. So thank you again for listening, sharing, reviewing, and giving me your feedback.